I first met Jay Muller, president of Recreation, last summer when he choreographed Milton Area Community Theater's production of Chicago. Later that year, I was able to attend a Recreation performance at the Milton Area High School. I was overwhelmed by the talent and professionalism of the group. It was only recently that I was able to sit down with Jay to find out more about Recreation.
Recreation was founded in 1976, and at that time, a gentleman who was a professor at Penn State recognized that folks at state centers, nursing homes, things like that, where people are sequestered, don't get professional entertainment. They can't afford it. So a group was put together just for the summer. They were just going to sing in the prisons and those kinds of facilities in the summertime. And then it was going to be over. That was it. But they also started singing in state parks, and then the public kind of got a taste of it. And it caught on.
That professor was Hugh Brooks. He formed another edition of Recreation from Penn State students in the fall of that same year. The original tour focused on Pennsylvania, but Recreation soon branched out, touring for the USO and adding Veterans Affairs hospitals to their schedule. After 5 years, the group moved to Susquehanna University, where Muller met them and became a member. Eventually, the relationship with Susquehanna University came to an end.
We went full-time in 1982, so for 28 years, this has been the full-time gig. No school, no association, nothing. And it's funny because people still think we're a Penn State group or a Susquehanna group.
Their Port Trevorton headquarters has offices, a recording studio, a rehearsal room, and costume storage. While Recreation's primary mission is to the VA medical centers around the country, they also fill their very busy schedule with performances at schools, fairs, conventions, and churches.
The cast sings about 320 shows a year. And I know that sounds like an exaggeration, but it is the truth. Because there are lots of days where we have multiple show days. They get about 5 days off at Thanksgiving, maybe 10 at Christmas. But the rest of the time they're traveling around the country. For
the members, the experience is unlike any other.
We're not a pop group that sings a little bit of gospel, and we're not a gospel group that sings a little bit of pop. We are 100% both, and they are separate. The same kids do both programs, which is cool for them, because they get really two different types of singing and two different types of emoting, drawing in audiences, totally different realms, totally different.
The cast is comprised of kids, young men and women who give up work, school, and family to be part of Recreation. They receive a small stipend to help pay for necessities while touring, as well as housing in Port Trevorton when they are in between shows.
We provide as much as we can, but they know when they come that it's a mission. I mean, they're volunteers in the truest sense.
Though they are volunteers, a lot is expected of the cast. Recreation has a variety show and a gospel program designed specifically for churches. That's a whole lot of repertoire to learn in a short period of time. I spoke with Mary Jacobs, a member for the last 2 years, about what a typical day is like at the beginning of each new season.
When you come to the group, you begin the learning process about mid-June. You come to live in the house here and you have rehearsals every day. You know, you're expected to be awake at those rehearsals, you know, not be falling asleep in vocals or, you know, you really have to put 100% in 100% of the time. And we work about, you know, 10, 12 hours a day. I'm learning the new program.
10 to 12 hours a day? Wow. And the learning never stops.
They're constantly learning because they come in the summer. That's when the season starts. The new group comes. They learn what we call the variety show first, and really just a set amount of repertoire so that we can get started. Once they have that, then they have to learn the gospel program for church. Once they get that, we learn pop sections for schools and more variety show stuff.
Oh yes, and then there's the Christmas program too. It obviously takes a very special kind of person to want to do what Recreation does.
A lot of kids this age that want to do it have a sense of what's in it for me, and they really can't come with that attitude. If they come with our agenda first, I guarantee that they will be fulfilled as speakers and performers and grow every other way. But it's not, you can't have an agenda or a selfish, you know, arena when you first get here because it's just too intense, it's too hard.
Often the kids, who can range in age from 18 to their late 20s, don't realize what kind of a commitment they've made.
I don't think most of them realize what they're doing until they get to that first VA show. Many times we've done the very first VA show, and after 6 weeks of beating our heads together against the wall to train and get them there and many times I've had one or two come up and say, "Oh, I had no idea. I'm sorry, I've been such a jerk. Let's do this."
The VA program is the primary mission of Recreation, and they receive support from groups like Bowlers to Veterans Link and HHV, Help Hospitalize Veterans.
The Elks all across the country put us up in housing wherever they can.
Since Recreation does all of its roughly 140 VA shows for free each year, they require the additional funding generated by commercial performances such as the Bloomsburg Fair and the like. There is not a set tour each year, but Recreation goes from sea to shining sea in order to meet the booking requests. In fact, they travel more than 35,000 miles every year. That's 35,000 miles on the road. The group has 2 vans and a trailer which get them everywhere they need to go.
If a VA calls, like this summer, Grand Rapids, Michigan wants us for a big carnival they're doing, we try to make those things work. Or if the government, or if one of the national sponsors says, "I need you here," then, of course, you try to make that work. But we mostly follow the weather. We go to Florida in January, like all good Americans, and we go, if we're going to go to Seattle and sing in the Northwest, we make sure we're doing that in the summertime or early fall.
Of course, there are bound to be mishaps, as Andy Reich, a cast member for the last 4 years, points out.
Having 35,000 miles, you do have small fender benders and things like that, and you do have, situations you get stuck in mud or going through the Rocky Mountains with snow coming all over the place and things like that. So, there are, as much as we try and get ahead of the weather, sometimes it doesn't cooperate.
2 technicians travel with the cast, so space in the van can be at a premium.
You really get used to having to make known what your personal boundaries are as far as things. You are in the van together, so everyone's sitting on top of each other in the van.
A cast member serves as the road manager, and others work with the costumes. When you consider that each cast member has about 20 costumes, keeping everything in tip-top shape is a challenge.
You're doing 320 shows a year, sometimes it seems like there's a costume breaking every other day.
Back in the day, Jay Muller was costuming the group in between his duties as president, director, and choreographer. Now, however, he has extra help in the costume department.
It happens that my general manager here, his wife has a degree in costume design. And she's amazing. So we've really upped our ante in costumes the past 3 or 4 years. Well, longer than that actually, because of her. And her name is Summer, and she's phenomenal.
Somehow, amid all the rehearsals and travel, Recreation has time each year to cut a CD as well as produce a DVD of both the variety and the gospel shows.
We make DVDs of the show every year, and there are 2 aspects of that I think are really cool. One, the kids in the group get to make a DVD. They get to be involved in that process. And before they make the DVD, they've made the CD, so they've recorded in a professional studio. We have a guy from Kentucky who's worked with Paramount, Branson, film crews, all kinds of things, and we've known him for years, which is the only way we can afford him. He donates a lot of his time for Recreation. So they're working with top-of-the-line people here as far as their training, so that's kind of a cool thing for them. The other part of that is that we give every DVD to the veterans hospitals. They get them for free.
Those DVDs get played over and over and give the veterans a tangible reminder of Recreation's visit. Talking to and meeting the veterans has an impact on the cast as well.
The thing that amazes me the most is that, we go into these VAs and we'll put on an hour-long show, and then we talk to the guys afterwards, and they'll just be so grateful for what we do, and we're like, no, we're here to thank you for what you've done for us.
The programs for this year are called Love, and there are several opportunities to see Recreation locally before their season comes to an end. Visit their website at www.re-creationusa.com for the tour schedule. Well, that does it for this episode of In Your Neighborhood. Remember, you can see all of the segments from Season 1 on our Facebook fan site, so make sure to check that out. I'm your host, Jennifer Wakeman. Thanks for watching.